The European Age of Exploration has got to be one of my favorite time period in history, mainly due to Koei's Uncharted Waters 2 New Horizon. A great game, 9 out of 10. And today's video has something to do with European Age of Exploration, specifically with one Portuguese lad named Tome Pires. Tome Pires, just to be brief, was a Portuguese apothecary with the post of factor of drugs. So basically a herbalist. During his brief period in India and Malacca between the year 1512 to 1515, he wrote his magnum opus called the Suma Oriental. This book was supposed to provide Europeans with valuable information regarding the Malay archipelago. Some time ago, someone shared with me a video made by an associate professor from International Islamic University Malaysia. It's Dr. Soleha again. In it, she claimed a lot of things, but for the sake of my sanity, I just focus on the first 12 seconds of this short.
Kisah Parameswara. Kita dimomokkan mengatakan Parameswara itu Hindu kerana nama dia Parameswara. Itu hanyalah panggilan yang ditulis oleh Tome Pires dalam Suma Oriental. Dia menulis Pamitra, kemudian disebut Parameswara. Itu adalah bukan Hindu itu. Parameswara adalah orang Islam.
I want to look more closely about this claim. The claim that 1. The name Parameswara was created by Tome Pires in the Suma Oriental, and the claim that 2. Tome Pires was trying to write the word Pamitra, but somehow got changed to Parameswara. Now, where to start? Well, let's start with the claim that it was Tome Pires which created or at least popularized the name Parameswara throughout his book, namely the Suma Oriental. There is one big problem with this claim. The Suma Oriental, written by Tome Pires, was not published until 1944. Yes, it was written between 1512 to 1515, but it was lost. Europeans themselves know little about the Suma Oriental, mainly because people thought it was lost to time. Here, I'll show you. If you're learning linguistics, this is one of the most interesting tools that you can use. Introducing the Google Ngram Viewer, it basically charts how many times words are used throughout printed sources, mainly Western sources unfortunately, but it's good enough for now. So if we type in Suma Oriental, as we can see here, few books or any printed sources talk about the Suma Oriental until around 1944, because people thought it was a lost work. And it also looks like only a few people know who Tome Pires is before the 1940s. And now we look at the word Parameswara. My hypothesis is quite simple. If the word Parameswara or any of its spelling equivalent was indeed created by the Suma Oriental, the word Parameswara should only appear after the Suma Oriental has been published, namely after 1944. So I should see an n-gram graph of something like this. And as we type in the word Parameswara or any of its spelling equivalent, we can see here that they all has been used way before the Suma Oriental was published in 1944. Now, you might say, well, maybe these mentions of Parameswara were talking about the Hindu religion. Fair enough, many do. But a few sources such as this one, published in 1801, used the term Parameswara to refer to a previous ruler in Malacca. It even says here that the name is a, quote, common Hindu name. Now, whether the name is correct is not the main question. The main thing I want to debunk here is the claim that Tome Pires or the Suma Oriental is the one responsible for the name Parameswara. Now, while we're on the subject of rulers on the Malay archipelago, let's look at the Chinese. Now, the Chinese did write something about us over here. Now, if I look over at the English Wikipedia for Parameswara of Malacca, and look at the etymology section over here, there is one line that says that the Ming Shi Lu recorded two persons named Parameswara and Parameswara. Now I look over at the actual source here, which is by George Wade from 2005. Navigating this old website is a bit of a pain, but I did find the sources for this. I'm just going to look at one of them. Now, apparently, at the 9th year of Emperor Yongle, a king from Malacca named Parameswara at the 7th month came to visit. And this is for my own sanity. I actually went out and find this record. It is from the Taijong, aka Emperor Yongle, records number 117. And well, here it is. So this is the record of Emperor Taijong or Yongle. And then we scroll down to record number 117. And here is the whole thing. Now we just need to find where is Malacca, and that's it. Note that the word Malacca and Parameswara are wrongly written sometime. It is likely because this character and this character looks almost the same and the OCR got confused a bit. And as a bonus, when I was browsing through the records, apparently there was also a king from Pahang who is also named Parameswara. Just something interesting from this book. This is from Ming Shilu, book 325. Now, is the first Sultan of Malacca named Parameswara? I don't know, nor do I have the expertise to find out the truth of it. But what we can infer here is that the word Parameswara has been used in the Malay archipelago even before the Portuguese set foot over here. Because apparently, veritable records like this was compiled immediately after the death of the emperor. And as for the second claim, that the name Parameswara was actually Pamitra but got changed later on, that is to say, the Suma Oriental actually uses the word Pamitra or other similar sounding words, but the later Europeans accidentally changed it to Parameswara. The same way the word Mandarin came from the Malay word Menteri. Does Dr. Solehah know that the Suma Oriental is available for download for free for anyone to check? So debunking this one is actually much easier. Well, if we look at the English translation of the Suma Oriental published in 1944 here on page 231, when talking about the history of Malacca, Tome Pires specifically used the word Parameswara, which he claims to mean the bravest man in Palembang, Jawa. In any case, nowhere does the word Pamitra or its other spelling equivalent appear in the Suma Oriental. Again, whether or not the leader's name is actually Parameswara is not important, but we do know that it was not Tome Pires who started the trend. While researching for this video, I find it fascinating that it is us Southeast Asian that put so much emphasis on the Suma Oriental, whereas the Westerners themselves barely mention the Suma Oriental at all. For example, there is a Malay wiki page for Suma Oriental, but none for the English Wikipedia. This is not important, just find it fascinating. And that's it for this video. Salam and bye.